case you have been living under a rock, the Miss South Africa organization has given up their Miss World license, and this license has gone to Carolyn Botha, who has established Miss World South Africa. Now, initially, a lot of us were very excited for Miss World South Africa. I, on the other hand, was actually a bit upset because, you know, Miss World has been Miss South Africa's thing for the longest, but now it's been taken over by somebody else, and I'm a bit disappointed in this new organization, let me just say that. And it's not necessarily because of the recent Carolyn Botha scandal, you know, the racist lady who used the K word in a voice note. It's just their whole vibe is so boomer, and I cannot deal. But speaking of Carolyn Botha, I suppose we have to start with that because that has been the thing that has had a lot of people up in arms recently, understandably so. And she is apparently the vice president of the Miss World South Africa organization. Now, this is what it says on her LinkedIn. And obviously, the Miss World South Africa organization did a little post to reveal her as the new vice president. But then, in the comments, of course, and on Twitter, a lot of people came out and said that this lady is actually very racist and a pretty terrible person. And so, obviously, at that point, I was like, okay, can I now really make a video just about, you know, one or two people claiming this? I'm just gonna wait and see what else comes out. And am I glad I did, because oh my goodness. Despite having generally cringeworthy and criminally boomer behavior on Facebook, Carolyn also made a voice note using the K word, which is the stake that just drove home the fact that this woman can't be working for Miss World South Africa, for me, to be honest with you. Because if you didn't know, if you're not from South Africa, the K word is basically the South African equivalent to the N word. Unlike the N word, however, it is impossible to make any sort of shitty excuses for yourself to be using the K word because it doesn't feature in popular culture at all. The word has all but been eradicated from society. It doesn't feature in songs, movies. You can't use it. Ironically, it's just something you say, and there's only one way to say it, and it is not good. And so she used the word in a voice note, which I will play for you, even though I really don't want to have that sort of energy on my channel because it's gross, but I will play it for you just because, for context, you know.
She was there at 9 o'clock, an hour before she was supposed to be there, in a cafe-infested mall.
I haven't heard that word for years. You guys know I've been living in Namibia for like 10 years. But besides that, she also has made some pretty cringe-worthy posts on Facebook. Not only airing her dirty business-related laundry in terms of a mother of one of her little kiddie pageant girlies, calling her out for racism, which I believe actually after hearing that voice note, she made this whole post about this mother calling her out for racism, and then the mother took the child to another pageant which only white girls won, and now she's just so spiteful, and I don't like her just by reading what she has posted on Facebook. Anyway, she also made a post in 2018 talking about the Miss South Africa pageant of that year. You know, it was the year that Tamron won, one of my more favorite years. And she talked about the contestants and their bodies. First of all, the first thing, she was sort of trying to give advice to the Miss South Africa organization. She was talking about how they must immediately eliminate girls who have any stretch marks, whose butts wobble when they walk, and all of that. She all but demands, you know, fantastic figures, as she claims it, as she calls it, from the Miss South Africa contestants. And she also said, that some of the girls in the Miss South Africa Top 12 of 2018 looked like SpongeBob SquarePants with square figures. And I'm just like, ma'am, look at yourself. Look at your whole self. But going back to the post about the mother who took her child out of Carolyn's pageant scene and put her in another thing and accused Carolyn of racism, this was all the way back in 2013. And I'm just like, all of this is on Facebook. Why did the Miss World South Africa organization not do their due diligence when deciding to hire this woman? Or was it the case that this woman just happened to be friend of someone at the Miss World South Africa organization? Because airing dirty business related laundry on Facebook is a huge no-no. Imagine if this woman actually went on with the Miss World South Africa organization. If she just had her boomer inclination, she would be posting Miss World SA dirty laundry on Facebook, and that would definitely not work. But obviously the catalyst for everyone hating her, because it's one thing to just post cringeworthy things on Facebook, okay, just, criticizing the Miss South Africa organization and the contestants' bodies and whatever. It's not that big of a deal, okay, in comparison to a whole voice note of you saying the most derogatory word in South Africa. Alright. So a lot of people, when the, Facebook things came out, they were like, ugh, you know what, this is just an old tunny complaining on Facebook, whatever, we don't care. But then the voice note came out, and this was also the thing for me that was like, there's no going back. There is no going back. There is no repairing. There is no nothing. You used the word, obviously not for the first time, and definitely not for the last time. I mean, there's no going back from that. The Miss World South Africa organization cannot keep this woman as vice president. It would be suicide to keep this woman as vice president. Besides that, having used the K word so nonchalantly in a derogatory fashion as she did, this woman cannot be allowed to work with any contestants of color. She just cannot. Because let me just tell you, if she so openly uses one of the worst words to use in South Africa in terms of race, then she probably does not have the ability to look at contestants objectively. And that's one of the things you have to have in the South African or in the African pageant industry as a whole. You have to be able to look at contestants objectively, because they're not all cookie cutter cutouts of each other. They're not all copy paste like they are in certain countries who only has a majority certain demographics of people. South Africa is the rainbow nation for a reason. You have to be able to look at contestants not in terms of race, but in terms of actual character, in terms of actual merit, which I'm sure there was a guy who said something about judging people by the content of their character, and that's exactly what we're doing to Carolyn today. So the Miss South Africa organization actually removed their post revealing Carolyn Botha as the vice president, and I don't know whether or not they will be actually addressing this situation.
Guys, just as I was getting ready to edit this video, the Miss World South Africa organization put out a statement talking about how they are investigating the situation, how they will not tolerate discrimination and racism, of course. And I'm just like, so what is the investigation exactly for? Because there is literally a whole voice note of her saying the K word. Like I said before, there's no non-racist way to say the K word. They also talked about tweets where there are no tweets involved in this situation. There are no tweets involved. It is literally, everyone is upset about some Facebook posts, but mostly we are upset about a literal voice note of this woman using the K word, which cannot be taken in any way except for racism. So there's literally no investigation needed. The Miss World South Africa organization, I understand there are probably some legalities, but racism is literally illegal in South Africa. The use of the K word, you can't use it. It literally is grounds for termination in South Africa. So I commented on Miss World South Africa's post that there's literally a voice note of her using the K word. And so I don't understand why a investigation would be needed. And they basically replied with, she denied saying it, and so they have to investigate further. To that I would say the person who originally posted or revealed the voice note needs to come out and also reveal the details behind the voice note. But I also found an interview with Carolyn from about 2 years ago, and the voice in the voice note and the voice in this interview with Carolyn Botha is an identical voice. It is identical. I have no doubt in my mind. She denies that the person in the voice note is her, so she's a racist and a liar. Hectic.
In 1998, I saw a gap in the market to host pageants that were actually honest and fair and unbiased. And she wasn't late, she was on time. So she was there at 9 o'clock, an hour before she was supposed to be there, in a caffeine-infested mall. So would you want to stand around there for 4 hours waiting for somebody to...
Other than that, guys, the socials of Miss World South Africa, it feels like it is being run by a 67-year-old pensioner. Honestly, there's just no game plan. Okay, they have been revealing every single contestant that has entered this year, one by one. And who has the time is what I'm asking. Listen, I am a devoted pageantry fan, okay? And I want South Africa to do well at Miss World once again, okay? I do not have the emotional bandwidth to go through every single contestant that has entered this year. Just give us the top 54, because that's what they're planning to do. We're now supposed to go through their socials, look at every single freaking contestant and vote for our favorites, and then there will be a top 54? 54 is too much still. 54 is too much. Just give us a top 30. We'll vote from there, and then you'll maybe give us a top 15 on stage or top 20 on stage or whatever. Top 54 is too much. What they're doing right now, it looks very mid. It's very boring on the Miss World South Africa socials, to be honest with you. There's no character. It's just very bland. It feels like I'm back in 2012 or something. The actual pageant of Miss World South Africa is happening in October in Soweto. But to be honest with you, it just feels like nothing is happening over at Miss World South Africa. There's not much hype for anything. And honestly, I had high hopes when I heard that Miss World South Africa was going to be a thing, but now I'm just like, oh, it feels so boomery, and I just can't deal. So let me know if you guys have been keeping an eye on Miss World South Africa. What do you think? Oh, thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.